Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey T. Fertiller back with another breakout session for our Global ITAM Summit. Year two, second annual. One of our original guests, Craig Guarente, was a part of our original year one experiment, back again, Oracle expert. Long time, you were at Oracle for a long time, Craig, I think. And so you bring that expertise to the private sector. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back. I know I didn't screw up the first year, so because you invited me back. So thank you, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I spent 16 years at Oracle, ran their whole contracts, business practices, audit teams. And then I can't believe we just had our ninth uh, Palisade anniversary last week. So we've been doing this. So 25 years, 26 years in the Oracle ecosystem. It's crazy.
That's a long time. And so you are the expert. You would be the person I would call if I had an Oracle problem. And
Well,
so
I hope so, right? We've seen a lot from the Oracle side and now from the client side, right? So, and some things change over time and some things are exactly the same. So it's interesting the way Oracle has maintained its dominant position despite, having this reputation of being really hard to do business with.
they try to walk that fine line. And so all of today's discussion is all from your expertise and trying to educate people. So Java is a popular topic. It's a pain point that's arisen recently for Oracle customers. How did the issue arise, and what are some things organizations can do to mitigate or minimize the issue?
Well, the problem has been a long time coming, right? So Oracle bought Sun in 2009 and 2010, I think it finally closed. And when you think, I think it was the most brilliant technology acquisition ever, right? Because when you think about what Oracle paid for Sun, I don't think they paid anything for Java. I think Java was a throw-in, $0 because Sun never monetized it. And here it is, I believe it's $1 billion business now for Oracle, right? So unbelievable. Smart business acumen by Oracle. So you got to give them credit. And they really waited a long time from the time they acquired Sun. They made some changes to their hardware, requiring maintenance and support on some hardware products where that wasn't Sun's model. And then it was about 2 years ago that Oracle changed the rules for Java, where things were, people thought they were free. All of a sudden they weren't free anymore. So even longtime Java users were being caught, right? Because if you want updates, if you want patches, you're being required now to buy a Oracle Java subscription. The thing that's different about Java, and the reason why I think it took Oracle a long time is it's not like database. Like if Oracle completely changes the rules for database, they can do that. People can't, you're running e-business suite.
Right.
With Java, they can just swap out Oracle Java and put in a different version of Java for the most part, right? So Oracle needs to, walk that fine line between trying to monetize Java and, not pushing their customers away, because customers do have options. So it's fascinating to see that. But we do see the increase in pressure coming for clients, right? So we have never seen an official Java audit from Oracle, but I don't think Oracle has to audit Java. They just need to say, are you using commercial features? Well, yes. Okay, you need a license. Or we saw you downloaded this patch for Java 7. You need a license for that, right? So it's not hard to get customers worried and concerned. So to answer your question, what can customers do? The first thing they can really do is understand what their Oracle non-compliance position is, right? Again, it's not like database where maybe they're in compliance, maybe they're not. If you're using Oracle Java and you haven't sort of gotten a subscription from Oracle, you're probably out of compliance. So, really understand what features and functions you're using, how much Java you're using, and what is that number, right? And then how can you bring that down, either through understanding your other contracts, because Java comes embedded in lots of other products, or reducing your reliance on Oracle, or swapping it out for another third-party Java. So there's lots customers can do. The worst thing you can do is wait for that Oracle knock on the door, right? Because They're going to ask you 5 questions. One of them is, are you using commercial features? Do you want security patches? And once you answer yes, they're going to say, you should do an unlimited license agreement for Java, right? So I think customers have a real opportunity to virtually eliminate their Oracle non-compliance risk here.
And I will say this, this is like an undertone, I think, whenever we talk licensing, proactive is always much better than reactive. And so proactively saying, where do I want to go? How do I get there? What are my options? Is always better than waiting, being the ostrich and sticking your head in the sand and thinking, oh, they'll never knock on the door. I mean, I say that just broadly.
It's so true. You know, we say our business is, we have 2 sides of our business. We've got the firefighter business and the fire marshal business, right? The firefighter business, you know, that's where you're being audited and there's a big non-compliance finding, and customers, you know, that's when they typically call us. But we really like the fire marshal business, right? Where we can go in there proactively and fix these problems before they become real big financial pain points. And we see this all the time, right? It's not just Java, it's applications, it's cloud, it's, you know, licensing, where customers have that opportunity more so in Java than I think in other products, where you just can't swap out your Oracle database for something else.
Especially because, and we'll get into this pain points with other, other pain points from Oracle, but I think one of those is people are moving to the cloud. They're taking a server, they're putting it off in the cloud without realizing, hey, can my Oracle database license, can that handle that? Can that support that? And, I mean, there's so much complexity now. So what are some of the other Oracle pain points your customers are feeling?
Well, I think, the things we see today, some of the things that are newer, let's say the last couple of years, you just brought one up, is this move to the cloud, right? Oracle customers have spent 40 years buying Oracle licenses, and they want to use those licenses on the cloud of their choice. Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, AWS, Azure, wherever, right? Some of them even want to use them on Oracle Cloud, right? Again, we don't get those happy Oracle customers who want to, get in bed further with Oracle. So typically our customers don't want to go to Oracle Cloud, but they just want to use them wherever, right? And years ago, back in the day when I was at Oracle, we loved that. Oracle loved use any cloud. We just want you to use our database, right? We want to be the database of choice. But something changed along the way, especially the last few years. Now it's like, well, we don't want you to use that cloud. And we're going to throw in some language into your contracts to make that difficult for you. Now what we're seeing is Oracle taking the next step and changing some of their support policies, right? Customers spend $20 billion a year on Oracle technical support. It's 95% margin, right?
Right.
And now Oracle is giving them less benefit for their support. They're saying, well, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. And we're not going to support this cloud version. And this virtualization thing is a problem. So Oracle is really taking that support and using it from helping customers expand their business and protecting their customers to really protecting Oracle's business and trying to get them to move to cloud. So I think to Oracle Cloud. So I think for me, that's one of the biggest things we see. I'll be on the phone this afternoon with a brand new customer, and we're educating them on how they can take their on-prem licenses and move them into the cloud of their choice. And there's always a way to do that. You just need to be prepared and smart about it.
And like everything else, expertise is valuable and has a very high ROI, because doing it proactively is much better than the cost of doing it reactively.
Absolutely. And again, our business has changed over the years. If I look at 2011, when we first started, I had a website. It was me and a website. And now there's 20 something of us. We have tons of content out there. We have blogs on all of these subjects. We have white papers. We have research notes. We have training. All of that stuff is available for free because we want to make sure customers make the right choice. And then only after that, once you get educated, once you understand the real nature of the problem, then, obviously we're here to help you sort of do that. The analogy I give is, I can give you golf lessons all day, and I can tell you how to play, hit it 300 yards down the middle and then hit it on the green in one putt, you'll get a birdie, right?
Right.
But how often, Oracle plays this game every single day. We had one customer, I was trying to prove a point. So they had a database contract. This goes back a couple of years, database and some options. So I said, I'm going to print out all the pages of contractual language and URLs that this customer needs to be aware of. I stopped at 300 pages. I literally had a stack this high because I was going to a meeting. I was like, I could keep printing, and I handed it to the client and said, this is your Oracle contract. And then I was like, this is part of your Oracle contract. I didn't print out your tech support policies or all these other things. And that's just for 4 products.
Right.
So people are overmatched when it comes to the level. Maybe people do realize how well Oracle does contracting for Oracle, right? But you really need someone who does that every day to just keep the balance of power between the two, your organization and Oracle.
And I have found, this is I don't want to push my beliefs off onto you, but the generation before me there were a bunch of generalists. They knew how to do everything. Our generation and those to come will be specialists. When I go to the doctor for something specific, I go to a specialist. And when we go to things like we have Pam Fulmer on this panel and doing breakout session, she does law for licensing, Oracle, and you're an expert in Oracle, and specific expertise is so underrated in our society. The ability to articulate and say, right, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and it'll save you millions.
Yeah, first, Pam's amazing. We've worked with her and some clients together, so she's got a great practice there. When we onboard a new client, we always ask them, why did you pick Palisade? Right? It's our first question we ask in that kickoff meeting to the executive. And there's one of 2 or 3 answers that always comes up. One is your expertise, right? The resume you bring. The second is your client list. We got to talk to some of your clients. But the third one, and one of these 3 is always number 1. The third one is focus. So when I think about our business, we just help with Oracle and the 100 companies they've acquired. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, either by a customer or by a partner or why don't you help with Microsoft? Boy, I wish you helped with Salesforce. Boy, can you do Quest? And I'm just like, absolutely not. We have given away so much business over the years because I'll say, oh, you have a Microsoft problem? Go talk to this person. You have an SAP problem? Go talk to this person. Because I want to stay 100% focused on my clients and their Oracle issues. There is so much there. We have 400 customers. Oracle has 400,000 customers, right? So our market penetration is so small right now. I think we can help all 400,000. They'll get there. They'll understand that soon enough. But there's no reason for me to try to learn Microsoft licensing. There's no reason for me to try to learn SAP or hardware, or, keeping up with Oracle is a challenge enough.
Right. And if we think about it, and I use the doctor example because those people went to extra schooling for orthopedics or whatever. And I would say on Oracle and some of the more difficult software publishers, it's become even more needed to have that specialization. And I want to take it a step further. We've talked on-prem stuff, but the more there's the move to the cloud, we're going to shift our thoughts to efficiency. How do we get the most out of this versus compliance? Those 2 are going to be at odds pretty soon, I think, in most organizations.
And they probably are already.
Right.
We have one client now where they have a big Oracle unlimited license agreement, which really tries to incent you to expand your Oracle footprint. And at the same time, they're moving to a cloud solution, which is trying to reduce the number of cores and processors. So I'm like, folks, you've got these 2 competing models at the same time. Like, one says go big, one says go small. You have to decide which is the right. We need to align your agreements. Same vendor, Oracle and Oracle, or they're putting you in two different directions. So we really want to align those two together. The cloud is, going back again 9 years ago, starting this company, I had so many people tell me, you're going to be out of business in 2 years because you're not going to be able to keep up with Oracle. You're going to lose all your Oracle knowledge, and the cloud is coming, Craig, and the cloud is going to change everything. I was like, you guys are nuts. Like, this is going to make it harder.
Right.
And sure enough, it actually makes it harder, right? Because now you've got every major client we have, even though they're going to the cloud, mostly going to a hybrid cloud, right? They've got some stuff in Oracle, they have some stuff in Google, they've got some stuff in AWS, and want to put this thing in Azure. And it's pretty amazing how they've got these I didn't anticipate, right? I figured, 9 years ago when cloud came, they would pick one and stick with it. But then I look at us, little Palisade, and how many cloud providers do we have? We probably have 4 or 5 of them, solutions that we use that, I don't have a server sitting, in my office here. I have my little MacBook here. That's all. So, that's how we run our business is on the cloud. And it's actually very sticky too, right? If I think about, if I want to remove my CRM, well, what else is tying into that? We've got our HR into that. We've got our payroll into that. We've got all these things sort of interconnected now. And cloud, the dream of cloud was that you can be fungible and move things around and you can turn it off. And it's sort of becoming more sticky, right? And it's almost like the last frontier. I tell my clients is, listen, if you're going into Oracle's cloud, you may never come out. And as long as you're okay with that, just be aware that you're sort of, you're already unhappy with that vendor and now you're going deeper with them. So think really carefully before you take that step.
And you have to worry about data. That's the other obstacle from moving is, do you think Oracle's just going to let you pull that data out and say bye? It's going to be difficult.
Yeah. Again, everything with Oracle starts with their contracts, and they are really setting up, I don't want to say not in a bad way. They're setting themselves up to be able to audit their customers. So you think about an Oracle audit now, an on-prem audit, an audit if you're using Azure or Google or Amazon or IBM, like Oracle has to request you to send data to them. Not anymore, right? They have access. They're not going to send you an audit letter. They're going to send you a bill, right? You turned on this feature, which you don't have licenses for, right? We're waiting for that. But you're right. Getting data out is when we help customers negotiate lots of Oracle contracts. I mean, most of our customers come to us because they don't want to do that, but sometimes you have to do that. So I would think by the end of May, if you look at this year, we'll probably help customers sign $1 billion of Oracle agreements. It's a lot of money. And that's one of the things that we're looking at all the time is, how do you get into these things and how do you get out of them, right? I want you to think customer, clients, in 3 years, when you want to move to something else, what's the process? What's the methodology? How are you going to take all your stuff out? The worst case we had a school district call us up, and they had all these on-prem licenses, and they actually canceled them and turned them into Oracle Cloud credits. And now they don't want to use Oracle Cloud anymore. So they actually have to go rebuy Oracle licenses and now use that third-party cloud, which they're going to do. And I was like, boy, that was really, you can't tell someone their baby's ugly, but man, that was an ugly baby.
I bet. And when you're talking about that, I was thinking of the old Eagles song, Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. And that's what's coming with all the interconnectedness of where we're going.
I love that you said Hotel California, because our head of sales, Dan Davigno, has used that line for the last 5 years with customers, right? This is Hotel California. You sign that deal, you're not getting out. And some people like Hotel California, right? And that's fine. You just have to know what you're getting into. That's all. Eyes wide open as you go into these things.
Oh, yeah. All right. And I don't want to project my thoughts on you again here, but I think as we come out of this pandemic, and we're coming out, it's just a matter of when, the audit activity is going to spike because they had a year of not really, because nobody wants to be the bad guy during a pandemic, so we can't sick the dogs on them. And so I think as we come out of here, software audit activity is going to increase dramatically. Is that your feelings as well? And how can having Oracle expertise help protect organizations ahead of time, since we love proactive?
Yeah, and we can see it, one of the beauties of being on this side of the business and sort of having the recognition, it's at least in the industry, this little tiny niche industry helping people with Oracle is, people hit our website and they ask for information and they set up meetings. So I can see what Oracle is doing by how people hit our website. And I can already see that the things that are hitting us are Java and audits, right? So people are looking for help. It's already happening. Um, and I think you're right. Oracle hit the pause button. We saw a dramatic drop in our audit support business last year. We were down 40, 50% in terms of number of clients, which tells me either we're doing terrible marketing, which I don't think we are, or Oracle was auditing less, right? So I'm told that Oracle actually did audit a lot less last year. I think the two things that are going to change is, you're right, the number of audits is going to increase. Oracle has built a shared service center in Romania. They're building automation. They're literally taking the human element out of a lot of these audits. So audits, there's going to be more of them. They're going to be more challenging because the people you're talking to at Oracle are not experts like they used to be, right? So you're going to talk to someone with a script and they're just going to say, yeah, that's the answer because that's the answer. And so they're going to be more challenging there. And the other thing we're seeing, and we haven't seen this in a while, is Oracle getting really aggressive with audits. So bringing the legal teams in again. We're seeing, a few years ago, Oracle issued a breach notice to Mars, and we were involved in helping Mars. We were not legal representation, but helping them through that whole thing and pushing back on that. We didn't see breach letters for a few years. We're starting to see them again. I mean, almost out of the gate breach letters, right? So not exactly, here's your audit, here's your breach, but here's your audit, and not too far later, here's your breach notice, right? So so they're going to get more. Oracle specifically, they're going to be more difficult because the person you're dealing with is not an expert, and also because the legal teams are just ratcheting it up. So there's 90 days left between now and the end of Oracle's fiscal year, a little less. So that heat index is going to go way up between now and the end of May.
And it's my perspective, I don't want to push it on you, but I think you'll agree, is that if you think Oracle's going to audit this year or next, why not have a proactive approach, understand our agreements and entitlements, our usage, and then try to get some expertise on how to maximize those and see where we're at. It seems like that's the rational approach.
Well, listen, I think so, right? We've built our business around that, right? So, we get in there, and first thing is we look at all those agreements, and everybody could read their contracts. Here's the interesting thing, and this was heartbreaking for me when I started Palisade. I remember my first client, Joel was his name, the guy who worked at this company. I said, Joel, just send me your Oracle contracts. We have an NDA. And he's like, I don't have them. I was like, heartbreaking. How could you not have your agreements, right? And then the next customer, we don't have them. Next customer, we don't have them. 78% of our customers who come to us do not have their Oracle contracts, right? I had a guy call me up. He's like, hey, I have all this great automation and you guys do contract reviews. So we're going to help your customers and I'm going to automate your whole process. And I'm like, dude, my customers don't have their contracts, right? Sure. So that's the problem. So we use what we call frog DNA. I know what was in those agreements in, 2004, right? Here. And so we're able to take what they do have and piece that together. Obviously, best case, we want to look through all those agreements. We want to tell customers what's in your contracts, but what's not in your contracts. What's Oracle? What is their policy? That's the part. Everybody can read a contract, right? But what's not in there? What's Oracle going to do to you given the current state of your contract with them, right? And then once we get through with that, that's where we get into the utilization. So what are you using? And we've built some amazing technology to help customers, discover and analyze what they're using, right? What do you own with the contracts? What are you using? Put that together and there's your compliance position. So, we've spent the last 9 years just doing that, just with the technology on our side to make it easier for customers. Because what we found is there's nothing out there that does this, right? Oracle does it manually. You think about how Oracle does audits, run these scripts, fill out these spreadsheets, we're going to give you a report, right? If there was a tool that could help you with Oracle audits, Oracle would be using it, right? So it's a really difficult process and customers have no capacity to do this on their own. And I don't blame them. I mean, it took us years and years to develop the tools to do this.
So I'm a big believer in software asset management tools, especially we've had Jim Ryan from Flexera on, big believer in them. But the point you're making, and I want to push in a smidge if I can, is that the tools may give you a high level view, but it's the interpretation of that licensed position is what's gold. It's not, I own this many and I'm using this many, but what does it mean, right?
Yeah, it's, we have a tool that we use to do our accounting. But I also have an outside accounting firm, right? And we get into this all the time with customers. They'll bring us in and say, listen, we want you to, not only give us that analysis, but we want you to make the tool run better. And I was like, well, I can't do that, right? That's not my job to help that tool do better. But here's what I can do. And I think, tools are great, right? If I had to choose, does the customer have a tool or not have a tool? I would say have a tool, right? And it should bring in your agreements with Oracle, right? If it just looks at utilization, okay. But then, when you look at the way Oracle does it, right? There's many, Flexera is one of them, Aspera, there's a whole bunch of others that are certified by Oracle, certified Oracle partners. And what that means is Oracle will take the raw data from these tools and put it into their own analysis engine, to their own analysis, right? Which is exactly what we do. When we come across to a client with a tool, we'll say, okay, give us the raw data because we think our analysis is the best, right? So we don't want to use that answer. We want to use our answer. And most clients listen to us. Some want to use those other reports, and that's fine too. But you're absolutely right. It points you in a direction. It can highlight red flags. And that's, I think, what you're needing. It's going to give you 20/80 vision, right? If you want to drive cross country and not get, you need 20/20 vision, but this could be good enough for now, right? Until something pops up. And that's what we see, when we're brought in with clients who have tools, it's usually, okay, they've used the tool for a while, but now they have the audit letter, right?
Yep. And so I see it as the Pareto principle, right? The 80% tools will get you. And that my previous corporate job, I tell the story when we talk about software asset management all the time. There was an Adobe title that said, we're compliant. It was green. I just randomly clicked on it. It says you own 14, it's green, but 0 were used. So to me, that's not really green because that's inefficiency.
That's right.
And I see the same, even more so with Oracle, is how many cores and how is that all implemented and contracted versus how you're using it, because some of those tools do better than others in terms of getting to that level of complexity.
Yeah, and it's non-compliance can come from multiple reasons, right? You can, you have 10 licenses and you're using 12, right? That's very easy. We had one earlier this year, and they were talking about their data center. I was like, whoa, hold on. Your contract says you can use this in Germany. Where's that data center? Oh, it's in the UK.
Yep.
A tool's not going to pick that up, right? No. Just, understanding agreements will. So, but the tool is what I like most about tools. They are really good. It's really hard to get the raw data, right? And if you can get a tool that goes and scans a network and pulls in information, that's fantastic. That saves the customers so much work. It actually doesn't save us any work, whether the customer has a tool or not. It's the same level of work for us because we're going to do the same thing on our side, but it's saving the client effort, right? It could be the difference between pressing a button and having the information or being 2 weeks later and having your team run scripts everywhere and having the information. And sometimes those 2 weeks are really important, especially if you have an Oracle audit and breach notice in front of you, right?
Yes. And see, I can have these, we could talk on. And to that point, I really think the tool helps you the first 80%, and it's the expertise that brings it home. And sometimes that 20% is very expensive and, or higher risk, however you want to look at the sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Great conversation, Craig. How can the audience get in touch with you if they say, I really like what this guy has to say. How can I talk to him for my organization?
Well, listen, I think, thank you for asking. I think you can just you go to our website, palisadecompliance.com. You can send us an email, info@palisadecompliance.com. And we'll respond right back to you. Like I said before, we've got lots of free content out there. People can go look at our blogs. We've got white papers. We've got case studies. We have a whole training program we call Paliversity, where people can sign up. It's all free. And we have classes on ULAs and licensing and all that fun stuff. So tons of ways. Follow me on LinkedIn. I think I put some good content. Out there. I'll occasionally get the email from an Oracle sales rep saying, boy, I wish I could like that on LinkedIn, but I can't. But thank you for saying that, because I'm thinking the same thing. So lots of ways to engage with us. And your point, Jeffrey, before, do it before Oracle knocks on the door. It's just much less stressful for you and probably a lot cheaper for you than waiting, for Oracle to sort of do whatever they're going to do to you and then trying to pick up the pieces.
The pressure is going to, especially until they hit their year end, the pressure, if you get contacted by Oracle, the heat will be on, the pressure will be high. That's my view.
I think a lot of people share your view.
I've been on both sides. So I was on the corporate side for a lot of years. I'm on the consulting side, and I've seen all of this from pretty high level. And I think it comes down to risk mitigation for a lot of organizations. How do we put a few dollars in so it doesn't cost us hundreds later? How do we invest? And that's why I'm a big believer in specialized expertise. Thank you for being a part of this, Craig, and
thank you. Thanks for
sharing
having
your
me.
expertise. It's been awesome. Have a great day.
You too. Have a good day. Thanks, everyone.